Good morning, everyone. Have you ever had a dream or desire so bold that when you shared it, people told you it was impossible, that it defied logic, facts, and everything that seemed reasonable? Well, you're not alone. There comes a point in every dreamer's journey when reason stands in the way like a towering wall, whispering, "Be realistic." But what if I told you that it's precisely at that point when reason says no, that you must believe the loudest? That's the moment when true creation begins. Today, inspired by the powerful teachings of Neville Goddard, we'll explore a truth that has transformed countless lives, the ability to believe in the unseen, the impossible, the unreasonable, and to manifest it into reality. Because, as Goddard said, imagination is the beginning of creation. You imagine what you desire, you will what you imagine, and at last you create what you will. Let's dive in and discover how to believe it, even when reason denies it. Imagination is greater than logic. This idea, central to Neville Goddard's philosophy, may seem radical at first. After all, we live in a world dominated by facts, data, and logical reasoning. From our earliest education, we are taught to rely on what can be measured, tested, and proven. But Goddard challenged this conventional framework. He insisted that imagination is not just a tool for creativity or storytelling. It is the very substance of reality itself. He believed that our imaginal acts are causal. What we imagine with conviction and feeling has the power to manifest in the physical world. Logic is based on the evidence of the senses. It draws conclusions from what already exists and projects them into the future. Imagination, however, is not bound by what is. It creates from what could be. While logic says this is how things are, imagination says this is how things can be. This is why relying solely on logic often leads to limitation. Logic looks at circumstances, history, and external conditions. If those appear unfavorable, logic concludes that change or success is unlikely, maybe even impossible. But imagination steps in and defies the fact. It allows us to picture new outcomes, new identities, and new realities, regardless of current conditions. Goddard taught that the imagination is God within us, the creative force by which all things are made. When we imagine something vividly and emotionally, we are shaping our inner reality. And because the outer world is a reflection of the inner, that imagined state eventually externalizes itself. He often said, man is all imagination. This means that what we consistently dwell upon in our minds, what we accept and embody as true in imagination, becomes our lived experience. So if we want to change our life, we must first change the pictures we carry within ourselves. Think of how many breakthroughs and miracles in history began with someone imagining what others believed was impossible. The Wright brothers imagined flight when logic said heavier than air machines could not fly. Thomas Edison imagined electric light when darkness after sunset was the norm. These inventors and pioneers succeeded not because the logic of their time supported their vision, but because they trusted in something higher, the creative power of their imagination. They dared to believe in what did not yet exist. That is the essence of Goddard's teaching. To apply this in your own life, you must learn to close your eyes to the visible facts and open your inner eye to the unseen reality you desire. Begin to see yourself already in possession of your goal. Feel what it's like to be there. Talk to yourself as if it were already done. Walk through the world carrying the conviction that your imagined desire is already a fact. This inner state, when felt consistently and vividly, becomes stronger than logic. Over time, the outer world reorganizes itself to mirror the state you persist in inwardly. This is not about ignoring reality or being delusional. It's about choosing which reality you give power to, the one dictated by your senses or the one crafted by your imagination. Logic is a servant of the past. Imagination is the architect of the future. If you want to create something new, you must stop arguing with the present facts and begin imagining something greater. You must dare to feel successful while still surrounded by failure, to feel loved while still feeling alone, to feel free while still feeling trapped. This emotional alignment is the signal that brings the imagined into the physical. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is one of Neville Goddard's most powerful and transformative teachings. It is the practice of embodying the emotional and mental state you would naturally feel if your desire were already realized. Most people wait for circumstances to change before they allow themselves to feel successful, happy, or loved. But Goddard reversed that approach completely. He taught that you must first feel the reality of your desire internally before it can manifest externally. The feeling is not a byproduct of manifestation. It is the cause. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are impressing the subconscious mind with a new state of being. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It responds to feeling. This is why mere affirmation without emotion often fall flat. Words are not enough unless they are charged with the feeling of already having or being what you desire. When you enter into the feeling of your wish already fulfilled, you plant the seed of that reality. With persistence, that seed must grow and appear in your world. To assume the feeling means to live inwardly from the end result. If you desire wealth, you don't merely wish for it or affirm it with your words, you feel wealthy. You act, think, and respond from the consciousness of already being abundant. You do this not through forced behavior, but by inwardly identifying with a state of wealth. How would you feel waking up every morning if you were already financially free? How would you move, speak, or think? This isn't about fantasy or escapism. It's about setting your internal compass to match the destination you seek. This principle applies to all desires, whether they are related to health, relationships, career, or personal fulfillment. If you desire a loving relationship, begin to feel loved now. Begin to feel wanted, cherished, and chosen. Carry yourself with a confidence and calm that comes from knowing you are deeply loved. Don't wait for another person to show up to give you those feelings. Give them to yourself now, and the external reflection must follow. The outer world is a mirror. It reflects back to you the state you occupy most often in consciousness. One of the keys to success of this principle is consistency. For many people fall into the habit of assuming the feeling for a few moments, then immediately return to worrying, doubting, or reacting to appearances. This back and forth creates a mixed signal to the subconscious. To truly shift your reality, you must dwell in a state of the wish fulfilled as if it were already the most natural and obvious thing in the world. You must persist in the assumption until it hardens into fact. Your inner conversation should reflect the new state. Your reactions to life should begin to align with your desired outcome. The more natural it feels to occupy this new state, the sooner it begins to crystallize in the external world. This isn't about pretending or lying to yourself. It's about stepping into a deeper truth that consciousness is the only reality, and that what you feel to be true becomes your experience. Neville often said, feeling is the secret. He meant that the emotional acceptance of a state is what gives it creative power. When you feel something deeply and sincerely, you accept it into your inner world, and the outer world must conform. This is not magic, it is law. The law of assumption states that what you assume to be true and persist in must eventually express itself in your life. By assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you take possession of your desire here and now. You are no longer striving, begging, or waiting. You are feeling. And in that state of being, the world around you begins to shift to match your inner conviction. Persist in belief despite outer evidence. This is perhaps the greatest test of faith and imagination, and one of the most challenging aspects of Neville Goddard's teachings. It is easy to believe when things are going well, when the evidence around us supports our desire. But the true power lies in holding to the belief in what you have imagined, even when the world around you shows no sign of change, or worse, appears to contradict it. According to Goddard, the moment you imagine and feel the reality of your desire, it is already a fact in the unseen realm. The outer world, however, often takes time to catch up. During this gap between inner assumption and outer manifestation, many people give up. They doubt, they worry, they look at circumstances and begin to believe in them more than in their inner vision. But Goddard taught that faith is persistence. Faith is the ability to remain loyal to the unseen reality, to keep the inner conviction alive, no matter what the senses say. Your senses will tempt you to return to the old state, to react to things as they appear. But the creative power is in remaining unmoved, in continuing to live inwardly from the state of the wish fulfilled, even if everything outside tells you it's not working. This is not denial of reality, it is dominion over it. The outer world is a reflection, and it cannot help but change if you remain consistent in your inner assumption. Every time you react negatively to outer evidence, you are shifting states. You are reaffirming the undesired condition. But if you persist in belief, if you continue to assume your desire is already yours, you will witness the world reshaping itself. Neville often emphasized that imagination creates reality, not instantly, but inevitably. The delay is not a denial, it is part of the process. The seed does not bear fruit the moment it is planted, it needs time, and during that time, the gardener does not dig it up in doubt. He waters it, nurtures it, and trusts the process. In the same way, you must nurture your assumption through continued belief and inner discipline. This persistence in belief becomes especially powerful in the face of setbacks. When you encounter obstacles or disappointments, it is not a sign to quit, but an opportunity to deepen your conviction. These challenges test whether you truly believe in your new state or whether you will abandon it at the first sign of difficulty. Neville encouraged his students to see every external condition as a shadow of a former inner state. What you see today is the result of what you previously believed and imagined. If you want a different tomorrow, you must persist in the new state today. One of the most effective ways to persist in belief is through revision and mental discipline. When something happens that seems to contradict your desire, instead of accepting it as final, revise it in imagination. Replay the event the way you wish it had gone. Feel it real. By doing this, you overwrite the unwanted experience with a new one, and you train your mind to stay aligned with your desired reality. You are not ignoring the facts, you are transforming them at the source. Persistence also involves choosing your thoughts carefully. Throughout the day, thoughts will come that try to drag you back into doubt or fear, but you have the power to reject them. You can say to yourself, that is not my reality. My reality is the one I have imagined. This inner dialogue is crucial. Your mental conversations create your world. Speak as if your desire is already yours. Think from it, not of it. This is the difference between wishing and assuming. Wishing keeps the desire at a distance. Assuming brings it close into your present awareness. Neville Goddard's message was simple but profound. The world is your self-push out. Therefore, to change the world, you must change your assumptions, and to change your assumptions effectively, you must persist in them even when nothing appears to be happening. Especially when nothing appears to be happening, because that is when most people give up. But the ones who persist, who believe in the unseen more than they fear the seen, those are the ones who shape reality itself.